everybody. Welcome back to Two Fools in Fantasy Football. This is a brand new show, brand new episode. We are going to call this Personal Time with Ty. So that is me. I am Ty, the uncool fool. We're going to be talking about some players at quarterback, receiver, tight end, wide receiver. We're going to talk about the injuries, and also we're going to give you the boom and the bust for Thursday night's game versus the Minnesota Vikings against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the injury front here. Some bad news for Minnesota. Adam Thielen has a high ankle sprain. He is out for a little while. We are not too sure if he's going to play on Thursday. If he doesn't, look for an uptick for the rest of the guys in Minnesota, especially Justin Jefferson. When Adam Thielen went out in the first quarter of this game, Justin Jefferson saw a majority of the targets from Kirk Cousins. The next guy we're going to talk about is Keenan Allen. He is on the COVID list. Right now, he is positive as of Monday. He can do 2 negative tests and be back on Sunday, so keep an eye on that. Next guy we're going to talk about is Daniel Jones. He is still out this week, so Mike Glennon will be the quarterback for the New York Giants. Fitzmagic, his time in the football team is about to come to an end. He is out for the year, so don't look for him to play at all, which is fine because Taylor's a better quarterback anyway, in my personal opinion. And then also, too, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the booms and the busts for Thursday Night Football again. The Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Minnesota Vikings. The boom is going to be no surprise if Adam Thielen, even with Adam Thielen in, it's going to be Justin Jefferson. Look for him to absolutely torch the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. And the bust this week is going to be the big old crippled Big Ben. For anybody who has seen anything with Big Ben lately, he is not throwing very well. He's not moving very well. He complains a lot. He's just not in a good situation for him at all. He should have retired probably 3 years ago. This is also a huge reason why the Steelers are where they are. They're barely a 500 team. I'm just not very excited about them at all. They probably won't make the playoffs. They probably won't do a whole lot. They'll probably get a pretty good draft pick next year, but I think they'll probably use it to help with their offensive line woes because their offensive line is really bad. Look for them next year, in my personal opinion, to get a quarterback for a trade or the free agent market, whether that be Jameis Winston, Jimmy Garoppolo, Deshaun Watson, and or Mitch Trubisky. Look for them to have a different quarterback this year because I don't know if their backups are going to do anything whatsoever. All right, so now we're going to go into the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks this year who you drafted higher, where they're landing right now, and also if you need to panic on them, if you need to hold on them, if you just need to relax. So we're going to talk about a couple different things here. The first quarterback we're going to talk about is Mr. Lamar Jackson. Now, if you are a Lamar Jackson owner right now, you are a little worried, a little skittish, a little scared just because of the fact that he has not played very good the last 2 games. He decided that he was being very nice for Thanksgiving. We'll put it that way, with 4 interceptions. He had another pick last week on a really bad play. I don't know what he was really thinking on that, but I mean, it is what it is. I think he didn't see what we all saw, but that's all right. But I would say don't worry about him. Just keep playing him. You know, one thing about Lamar, the great thing about him is he can have bad games throwing the ball like that, but he's going to make up for it with his legs. He is going to get you plenty of points that way too as well. Just like any other athlete, he's just in a slump right now, so don't freak out, don't get crazy. He does have a tough playoff schedule, so I know don't let that worry you. Don't go out and get Mac Jones if you have Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying, just for example, trust the process, trust Lamar Jackson, trust the Ravens offense. They'll be fine. I wouldn't worry about that a whole lot. So just if you have Lamar Jackson, don't worry about it. You spent a high draft pick on him. He's going to be fine. He's going to get you plenty of yards. Just trust the process, and he'll be a very nice quarterback for you in the playoffs. Even if he's like a 5th, 6th quarterback, he'll be better than most. Next guy we're going to talk about is the guy who is absolutely struggling right now is Patrick Mahomes. 6 out of his last 7 starts, he has got for 15 points or less. That's a huge red flag to me because you probably spent a 2nd or 3rd round pick on him. So if you are a Patrick Mahomes owner, I'm just kind of guessing that you're kind of in a borderline situation in the playoffs, or maybe in the playoffs, but you're worried, you're scared, you're a little like about it. Me personally, I know a lot of people are like saying the Chiefs are back. They're doing this, they're doing that. Like that's cool. Like I understand that. I get that. But my personal opinion is I don't think they're back. I think Mahomes has struggled all year long. Mahomes worries me. 6 out of the last 7 starts. That's a huge, huge percentage. That's almost 50% of the season that Mahomes has really struggled. At least, so that's just something that I would be very cautious about, very uh, worried about. Honestly, he's just not getting a lot of rush yards. He's not. I don't know what's going on, but it just seems like he's not reading the defenses like he did last year, or maybe the NFL's adjusting to him, and hasn't been able to make that adjustment yet to get where he needs to go. He worries the crap out of me if I was a Patrick Mahomes owner right now. This is the only guy in the top tier that I would actually maybe think about replacing for the playoffs. I know that's going to come to a shock to a lot of you, but just looking at the numbers, looking at the stats, also looking who the Chiefs play. They play a lot of interdivision guys here going through the stretch. So I would just be very cautious on that. If I can find a better quarterback with a better matchup, that makes a lot more sense. I might go that way with Patrick Mahomes, just because the fact is, if he's not even getting you 15 points and he was a top quarterback taken this year, that's really scary. That's a red flag to me. It's something that I would just be very cautious at. I would be a little hesitant to start somebody like that. That's just where I stand on that one. Next guy we're going to talk about is Dak Prescott. He's a top 5 quarterback in the draft this year, where he spent the capital on him. If you got him in a trade, or if you spent draft capital on him, however you did it, Dak has played a lot better at home than he has on the road. And week 16 and week 17, which is your 2 playoff weeks, he's playing at home. So that's a great thing. So depending on how your format is, how your playoff mat is, those 2 games, go ahead and start Dak. Go ahead and do your thing. Play with confidence. He'll be fine. So just let you know that if you look at his numbers, there's a huge split with the road and the home over the last 4 weeks. So just be very cautious of that. Like, just make sure you're on top of that. I would start Dak Prescott, unless he's just got a crazy stingy defense, maybe like the Buffalo Bills, maybe like the Patriots. But other than that, I would start him with confidence. Just be weary that he's probably going to get you more points at home than he is on the road. So just kind of keep that in mind. If, as an owner, if you feel like the need to maybe get another quarterback, maybe there's a great matchup out there that you want to use and expose. Maybe somebody's playing Atlanta, or maybe the Washington football team. Somebody's got a really weak secondary who you can expose, and you feel like that quarterback can get 2 or 3 touchdowns, 300 passing yards plus. Go for it. Other than that, go ahead and start Dak. He's going to get you what he needs to do. He's going to be consistent. He's going to get you that 20 to 25 points every game. So just don't really worry about that. But just if you have thoughts that you're kind of like, oh man, like this guy's got a really great matchup against like I said, Atlanta or Washington, they have just some terrible defenses, or maybe even the Houston Texans. Definitely think about that. Definitely consider that. There's no shame. In my personal opinion, I do this all the time. If I feel like somebody's got a great matchup, I'll pick them up for 2 reasons. Number one, because it gives me an option, and number two, the guy who I'm playing can't get him. Whether that's I do a lot of research personally, and I feel like with doing that, you give yourself a very nice advantage, which can make or break your week. If you get a quarterback who gets 25 points to compare to a quarterback who gets 15 points, obviously that 10 points could be the big difference. So just kind of think about that, do the numbers, do the math, check everything out, make sure it all makes sense and all adds up for you when you make those lineup changes. So just make sure that it's the best for your team, that make sure you get yourself over that hump. So definitely check all that stuff out. Now we're going to talk about some of the running backs who you spent high draft capital on, and what my opinion is and how I see them going into the playoffs here. The first guy we're going to talk about is Zeke Elliott. You spent a first-round draft pick on him. He was about averaging 7-8 overall. With him right now, I am very cautious. I am very scared to play him in the playoffs. Number one, since week 4, he's had a knee injury. He's been battling it. He's on a pitch count. Also, too, his backup, Tony Pollard, looks better than him. He's more explosive. He's getting more yards. He's somebody who just changes the game in a different direction than what Zeke is doing right now. As a Zeke owner, if I had better options, I don't think I'd play Zeke in the playoffs. He scares me. With the knee, with Tony Pollard doing much better, with him being on a pitch count, I don't even care what his schedule is. I know they have, I believe it's Washington, Philly, and Washington, if I remember correctly. But still, it's just somebody I would stay away from. I would do different running backs. I would just not put him in my lineup whatsoever. The next guy we're going to talk about is another guy who scares me is Alvin Kamara. Again, this is a guy you spent high draft capital on. He was averaging the 4th overall, 5th overall. Right now, the Saints, man, they are just a beautiful mess. And I think that's a really nice way of putting it, but they are an absolute mess. They have a quarterback situation where they really have no answer to. They got Mark Ingram. They got Alvin Kamara. The reason why I have a very tough time playing Kamara, and just let you guys know, like, I am one of the biggest Alvin Kamara fans out there. I love him. I love watching him play. His balance, his explosive, his quickness, his hands, his mental, what's the word I'm looking for? His mental vision of the game is, I just believe, like one of the top 1% in all the NFL. I have so much praise for this dude. Like, I'm just like the biggest fan you'll ever meet. Now, looking at it from a fantasy football owner perspective, I have a tough time playing him in the playoffs just because of the fact he's got a swollen knee. You got another guy in Mark Ingram who's very familiar with the offense, and also Taysom Hill is the quarterback. Taysom Hill, when he was the quarterback last year, and I'm just going back 1 year, Alvin Kamara had his worst 3 or 4 week stretch. And now, because of what's going on with Trevor Siemian not doing anything, Jameis Winston tearing his ACL up. So now you're in the same boat, plus Mark Ingram, who wasn't there last year. So Alvin Kamara is somebody I personally would not start in any of the playoff games unless I absolutely had to, just because that knee scares me. He's going to be on a pitch count too as well. And the Saints, as of right now, they really don't have anything to play for. So just with that being said, in the playoff schedule, I would be very cautious. I really wouldn't even play him, honestly. But if you have to, I understand. Another guy we're going to talk about, Jonathan Taylor. He spent a first round or a late second round on him. He was going somewhere between, I believe, 10 and 16, depending on your league standings and what league you're in. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, this year has been the MVP of fantasy football. He has absolutely busted through the roof after week 4. He's done everything you could have asked for and more. Obviously, he is a set it and forget it guy. He's got a very easy playoff schedule. I'm not going to take a ton of time talking about Jonathan Taylor because it's very obvious you're going to play him no matter what. He has got a really nice playoff schedule for the most part. It's on the easier side. He's been great this year. I know in one of my previous videos he had like 15 touchdowns within the first like 12 weeks or something like that. He's just on an incredible pace. He got another touchdown last week, almost got 150 yards rushing against the Houston Texans. Look for him to just do his thing. If you're a Jonathan Taylor owner and you're secure in the playoffs, this is the best thing that could have happened to you. He's off this week, so his legs he's going to be able to take a nice week off, refresh, recoup, refocus, and he's going to come out even more explosive for the playoff run. So it's such a great thing. I know not this week, but next week they play New England. New England obviously has got a great front seven. They are the best coach team in all the NFL, but I still would have no issue playing Jonathan Taylor against anybody right now. I just think he's just that X factor, that difference maker. And again, too, like I said in the video earlier, my prediction is the Colts are going to represent the AFC in the championship game this year because of Jonathan Taylor and the offensive line. That's just my opinion. So anyways, the next guy we're going to talk about who you spent high draft capital on is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been an absolute bust this year. He's almost labeled now injury prone. I guess you could put that with him and Christian McCaffrey in the same boat. Saquon Barkley scares the crap out of me. They got a tough schedule. He's not playing very well. Their quarterback situation is very flimsy at best. He's got a bad knee. He has a bad ankle, come back from the ACL injury. Just some dude who I wouldn't play at all. I know that's hard to say. I drafted Saquon Barkley in a couple of my different leagues. I think I've played him 3 games this year just because he scares me so much. It was a huge mistake by me by doing that. I understand that. I rectified the situation. I hope y'all have too as well. Just with him, I'd be very cautious. I wouldn't play him in all this playoff season. If you have somebody better, if you have somebody that you could plug in instead of him, I would definitely do it. So, maybe like a Williams from Denver or Detroit, just a couple examples just off the top of my head. Also too, if you're fortunate enough to pick up the guy from San Francisco, I'm totally drawing a blank on his name right now, Mitchell. If you got fortunate enough to pick him up, just some guys who would be much better overall, like no doubters than Saquon Barkley. I just see somebody that I would just completely stay away from in the playoffs. He's the guy who can absolutely kill you and take away that fantasy football championship from your grasp. Next guy we're going to talk about, we're actually going to go to the wide receivers. We're going to talk about some wide receivers here. Just again, this is just guys you spent high draft capital on, guys who you want to play, and then I'm going to give you the reasons why you should or you shouldn't play. The next guy we're going to talk about is Tyreek Hill. Again, this goes hand in hand with Patrick Mahomes. We talked about him earlier in the video. Patrick Mahomes is struggling. He's having a tough time. And also, who does that affect? That's going to affect Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce obviously is your number one tight end. He's the best and the best. You're going to play him. He is a set it and forget it, lock it, and throw it away. So we're done talking about him. Tyreek Hill, again, this guy, teams are starting to learn how to play against him. They're doing the two deep safeties, so they're taking away the deep ball for him. One thing that the Chiefs have going against them this playoff is they have a very, very tough playoff schedule. With that and Patrick Mahomes struggles, Tyreek Hill, I would actually downgrade him to a wide receiver 2 or maybe a flex play. I wouldn't have him as a wide receiver 1. I still would play him, but I would understand that, he might not get that big reception, that 60-yard reception for a touchdown, that reception for 50 yards. I would just keep that in mind, knowing what's going on with Patrick Mahomes' struggles. And I know it directly affects Tyreek Hill because obviously that's where he gets passes from. So just be very cautious with him. I would still play him, but if I could do a better receiver, if I have a Jamar Chase out there, for example, if I have obviously the best of the best, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, possibly Deebo Samuel when he's back rocking, those are the guys I put for number 1. I wouldn't put Hill number 1, just so just play him, but just don't think he's going to have a 30, 40, 50 point game. It's just not going to happen. Next guy we're going to talk about is CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, this goes hand in hand with Dak Prescott. We talked about him. CeeDee Lamb, you probably spent a low second or high third round pick on. CeeDee Lamb has all the talent in the world. He's playing in the number 1 offense in all the NFL right now. So right now, all of Dallas Cowboys, all their wide receivers have a great schedule here going down the playoff path. So CeeDee Lamb is a number 1 with a bullet, set it and forget it. Go ahead and play him with confidence. Right now, you're reaping the reward for CeeDee Lamb for having him. Great job drafting him. He is going to lead you to the promised land. Go ahead and play him with confidence. I would expect him to get at least 20 points or more per playoff game. I think he's a guy who's going to give you that plus, and I would have no problem putting him as number 1. No fear whatsoever. Let him play, let him roll. Look for Dak to look for his main dude and look for all the points and for you to have a great playoff run led by CeeDee Lamb. Next guy we're going to talk about is the guy who we were completely wrong about the last 2 weeks, Jalen Waddle, a wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. So he is playing out of his mind great right now. He is Tua Tagovailoa's number 1 dude. I should have realized that a little bit more, seeing that they're both from Alabama. They both have a history together. They both have a little bit of a past together. So they've always had that connection there. Jalen Waddle is playing out of his mind right now. They have a plus playoff schedule, which is phenomenal. He is getting the most receptions. He is getting the most targets. He is getting the most balls. So if you have Jalen Waddle on your team, go ahead and play him throughout the playoffs. No problem, no fear, no worries whatsoever. They're going to get him the ball. They're going to get the ball in his hands any way, shape, or form. He is obviously their most explosive weapon. They have Mike Gesicki, who's a very nice tight end. He's probably a top 10 tight end in the league, maybe 8 or better. But Jalen Waddle is a number 1 receiver for him. He is their future number 1. He is going to get all the looks, all the touches, everything from Tua. So play him with confidence. He could be a 1A or 1B for you. Again, if you have like a CeeDee Lamb and a Jalen Waddle, 1A, 1B, boom. Very, very happy. So just let you know on that one. Next guy we're going to talk about is Moore from the New York Jets. So if you picked him up, I'm just letting you all know, he's picked up in 70% of ESPN leagues. So if you have a chance to grab him, grab him. And I'll tell you why. He is the Jets' number 1 receiver. He's the most explosive guy on that offense. And also, too, the Jets have the easiest freaking playoff schedule out of any of the teams. It's so cake. It's so good. He's number 1 guy. Rookie guy, Zach Wilson trusts him. He throws him the ball all the time. So if you got him, play him, put him in there. He would be the ultimate flex option if you do 3 receivers overall. So if you have that, put him in there. If you do 2 receivers, if you like to go running back, and running back for your flex, if you're just running 2 receivers out there, he would be a supremium. He would be the top number 2 receiver out there. He would be like a bottom 1 to me. So if you have him, go ahead and play him for throughout the playoffs. He's going to get you those points. I put him not in the same boat as CeeDee Lamb, but I can't see him getting less than 15 points per game. I think he's going to absolutely crush it. I think you're going to have a great playoff stretch, playoff run with him as your 2 or your flex. So the tight ends now, we're going to flip over there. We're going to talk about some tight ends who you spent higher draft picks on, and also a couple who you might have gotten off the waiver wire. Or actually, one you might have gotten off of the waiver wire. The first guy we're talking about is George Kittle. Obviously, if you watched the Seahawks game or if you just saw the stats, he had an amazing stat line, 9 for 181 and 2 touchdowns. He was a top tight end this week. This is what George Kittle does. It's no coincidence that he did that this week with the Niners' number 1 receiver, Deebo Samuel, out with a growing injury. Look for Kittle to be great down the stretch. The Niners have a really good schedule. The George Kittle is a very reliable tight end when he's healthy. He's obviously a top 2, top 3 guy. If you got George Kittle, you probably spent, I'm guessing, around a third round pick, give or take, in the mid to front section on that. Play him, obviously. And then also, too, just if you want to think outside the box a little bit, say you have another tight end who's killing it or who's got another great playoff schedule. We're going to talk about the next 2 after this. He's somebody you might want to think about putting in your flex if you have that option, if you can. If you're running low on receivers, or maybe if you have one of the guys like who we talked about earlier, Kamara, Barkley, whoever, and you just like, man, like I'd rather play this guy than this guy. So it's options for you to do, options for you to choose to make sure that you make the best decision possible. Now, George Kittle is not a bad flex option. Don't get me wrong. If you have another tight end who has a plus matchup and you got a George Kittle on there, I mean, why not? It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not a bad idea. So just kind of give yourself as many options as you can. If you have to think outside the box a little bit, because at the end of the day, you're trying to solidify, you're trying to get your team as solid as possible. Think outside the box, try to figure out what makes the most sense for you, that way you get the most points and get you that W so you can get that championship that we so desperately covet. Next guy we're going to talk about is Dawson Knox, my personal favorite tight end. He's like a junior George Kittle, in my opinion. The dude is rough, tough, tumble. He can catch the ball. He's in a very prolific offense. He gets a lot of looks, a lot of stuff there. Also, too, Dawson Knox, they have a great playoff matchup here for the playoffs going into it. He is Josh Allen's one of his most trusted targets. I know Buffalo has a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, but I would go Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, in my opinion. How I see it, I know last night was just a really weird game. There's no other way to describe it. I guess you could say it was windy, weird, whatever, however you want to describe it. So there wasn't a lot of pass and there wasn't a lot of stats in that factor. So kind of take last night's game, throw it out when it comes to the fantasy football stats and all that stuff. But Dawson Knox, very trusted receiver. If you've been watching the game, you can see Josh Allen looks for him more consistently every single day, all the time. So just make sure you have him on your list. And again, this goes back to George Kittle, what I was talking about earlier. Dawson Knox has a very nice playoff schedule. If Dawson Knox is there and George Kittle's there and you have a running back who you're not confident in, just kind of make that flip with that flex pipe. That's why they have the flex, so you can kind of do what you need to do. Last guy we're going to talk about is for the tight ends is Dallas Goedert. This year you probably picked him up in about the, I believe, 6th, 7th round, maybe 8th or 9th. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank where he was. I think he was ranked like 100th, 110th or something like that. So it'd be obviously lower than that than what I first said. Dallas Goedert, right now he is Philly's number 1 receiver. Jalen Hurts, when he's healthy, he's always looking towards him. Obviously, Gardner Minshew and him had an instant connection. He got 2 touchdowns in the first half. He had, I believe, 5 catches for 106 yards. So obviously, he had a really nice day with George Kittle. Obviously, he was one of the top tight ends this week. He's somebody too. If you have him, they got a great playoff schedule in Philly. Like I said, he's a number 1 target. He gets looked by all the quarterbacks more because he's trusted. He's got good hands. He does good routes. He does all the things you look for in a solid tight end. So the Eagles, as terrible as they are, as they can't draft wide receivers, he is a nice building block for them. That's why they got rid of Zach Ertz. So with that being said, again, if you're thinking outside the box, I know I talked about this before. I'm not going to talk about it again, but just thinking outside the box, trying to figure out what works best for your team for the playoff time. He's a great guy to have. They have great advantageous matchups here throughout the playoffs. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you all enjoyed everything. Again, this is personal time with Tyler. This is Two Fools in Fantasy Football. I changed the background to a fireplace since it's personal time. Just thought I might mix it up a little bit. I hope this helped you. I hope some of the guys we talked about you have on your roster. I'm sure you do because you drafted, because we all drafted different. So hopefully this information helps you, elevate you, get you the correct mindset for the matchups, for the playoffs, helps you, think about everything from different angles, different aspects, different ways to do it all. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions or if you want to talk about anything, please, hey, drop a question below. I would love to answer it for you guys. Again, this is Two Fools in Fantasy Football. Please tell everybody that you know, drop a question, drop a like, drop a subscribe, everything that you can do to help us out. We'd really appreciate it. So, all right, guys, well, hope you all have a great week 14. This is the last week going into the playoffs. I know this talked a little about the playoffs just because I know some of us are already looking towards the playoffs because we clinched a spot. Some of us are trying to clinch a spot still, and some of us, unfortunately, do not have a chance. So, but if you watch this show, hopefully you're in one of the first two brackets and not the last bracket. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for watching us. Me and Mario will be dropping another video this week. We're going to talk about the booms and busts, and we're probably going to talk about a couple of more different topics that we haven't figured out just yet. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Everybody take care, and we will be talking to you shortly. All right, take care. Bye.